politics.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Glenn Mills. It is time to go inside Utah politics. We do begin this morning with Glen Wright. He is the Democratic challenger in Utah's 3rd Congressional District. Glenn, thanks so much for being on the show. Appreciate having you here.
Pleasure to be here.
Talk about your interest in the seat in Utah's 3rd District. Why are you making a run?
Well, I'm making a run first because the Democratic Party reached out to me and said, how about running? No one had filed in the middle of the filing week, and they were in deep need of a candidate, so I said, sure. And I'm always ready to talk about policies that I consider important for the state and for the country.
That brings up a point that I wanted to ask you about, the fact that you are in a deeply red district, one of the most reliably red districts in the country. What is your strategy as you come in a major underdog in this race to try to gain some ground?
Talk about issues that I think are important and point out the differences between myself and the incumbent. I think the major issues that I think can possibly sway some voters are climate. I think his Representative Curtis talks a good game on climate. He has proposed and organized a conservative climate caucus, but that group doesn't do anything. They have set no goals. Their policies will not contribute to improving climate change. The other big issue that I've been running on, that I've been getting a lot of traction on, is the Supreme Court decision on abortion. Mm-hmm. And women's reproductive health, I think, is a very important issue.
Okay, I want to dig deeper into what your solutions and ideas are on those very topics. But first, talk to us about your qualifications. What do you believe qualifies you for this position?
I have a pretty varied background, and it's more varied than I think most people that run for office. I've lived in 8 different states and 3 foreign countries. I'm a 2-tour Vietnam veteran. In my corporate life, I worked as a safety engineer, providing industrial safety, fire protection, liability, and security advice to customers for 30 years. The last 12 years, I was in charge of all of our engineers in Latin America and traveled there 2 weeks a month for 12 years. And I'm kind of a policy wonk. I like digging into issues and coming up with solutions, which was part of my job for the insurance company I work for, trying to find solutions for our customers.
Let's dig into some of the big issues of the day. Let's start right off where you started off, climate and energy. We take a look right in our own backyard at the Great Salt Lake and what's happening there. It's shrinking and disappearing right before our very eyes, and we're all dealing with the consequences of that right now. What do you see as the most pressing issue when it comes to climate right now that you would want to address?
Well, I think we have to set some goals and accomplish goals in reducing our carbon footprint on society. And I'm taking direct action in several of those areas. I'm the Summit County appointee on the Community Renewable Energy Agency, and I had some effect, I think, on getting HB 411 passed through the legislature a few years ago. We're currently negotiating with Rocky Mountain Power to bring 100% renewable electrical energy into 18 communities. I think decarbonizing our economy is the most important thing we can do, not only for the environment, but for our economy. Electric vehicles. I drive a Chevy Bolt, and electric vehicles will be the method that we try to decarbonize our society, but also help the economy. We can see with the global oil disruptions caused by the war in Europe. We are tied to the global price of oil. Even though the U.S. is technically energy independent, we export more energy than we import. But no matter what we produce here, it's tied to the global energy price. If we reduce demand for oil by going to electric vehicles in our transportation, we will greatly reduce the impact on fuel costs for everybody, not just those driving electric vehicles.
Do you think that should be mandated? We're starting to see some states do that now, and they set a date specific for when that is done. Do you believe that it should be mandated that there are no more gas-powered vehicles on the roads?
I don't think we're going to have to do that. I think it's going to happen organically.
Is there not a lot
the
of
car-
room to go, a lot of room to make up as far as infrastructure goes
yeah,
at this point?
Absolutely. But I've seen it, I've driven my vehicle for 3 years now, and I've seen an improvement in the infrastructure just in those 3 years. There are fast chargers popping up all over the state right now along our main transportation routes. And it is going to be a gradual process, though. The car companies have said that they want to produce half of their new vehicles as electric vehicles by 2030 and 100% by 2035.
So just to be clear, you support this going on from an economic standpoint as far as a government mandate standpoint? Okay. I want to go back to another thing you brought up as well, because we're running out of time. You brought up the Roe v. Wade decision.
Yes.
We're starting to see, obviously, now this in the hands of the states, and there's a patchwork of law across the country. What do you believe is the best solution there?
I think the best solution is go back to Roe v. Wade. And if I'm elected and if I get the opportunity to codify the protections that women have had in Roe v. Wade, I would do so. I think that decision was really misguided on part of the 5 members of the Supreme Court who went in that direction. They're imposing their own moral precepts on a population that, if you look at opinions nationwide, don't accept that particular position. It's almost a violation of our religious principles to impose their religious views on the mass society in the United States. And it's a real imposition on the rights of women. Not only their reproductive rights, but their economic rights and their ability to develop themselves as full human beings.
Student loan forgiveness, the president's plan, has been getting a lot of attention and controversy.
Yep.
Our delegation stands united against that. Where do you stand?
I think it was a good start. I wouldn't have done it exactly that way.
How would you have done it?
I think what we need is, as part of that forgiveness, impositions on universities to control costs. In the last 40 or 50 years, education costs have skyrocketed way past inflation. I was able to go through college by working hard over the summer and not coming out with no debt, and by the benefit of an Air Force ROTC scholarship.
So you think the solution is more working to get the cost of college down as opposed to forgiving loan debt?
I think they go together. And one of the reasons I think we should forgive some of the loan debt is a lot of the older debts had very high interest rates. If we're going to give out loans to students and encourage them to go to college, why shouldn't they be getting the lowest rate that can be gotten from the federal government, as in something like the 10-year Treasury rate?
Okay, we have 30 seconds left, so this one has to be quick. The Inflation Reduction Act, do you believe that was the best way forward to addressing inflation?
I think it affects more things than inflation, and it mitigates inflation effects on senior citizens in terms of negotiating lower prices for pharmaceuticals, putting a cap on their expenses. And in the long term, as I talked about before, as we move to electric vehicles and the incentives for that, it will reduce our reliance on the world price of oil.
Okay, so if you were in Congress, you would have been a yes or no vote on the...
A definite yes.
Okay, all right. Well, the campaign coming down the stretch, we will continue to watch and see how that goes. We appreciate you being here and sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
You bet. Still to come on Inside Utah Politics.